Okay, I'm going to record this, so just so everyone is aware. Okay, I'll give people a couple more minutes to show up, but we will get started on time to be mindful of everybody's busy schedule.
I need that trick. How did he disappear like that?
It's
magic. Oh, and there he comes back.
You know, the Zoom has some really
I could
nice
have used that last night at my city commission meeting.
Yeah. Where'd they go?
That's great.
Yeah, you guys have had some contentious meetings of late.
Yes,
I watched a little bit of one of those Zoom meetings that you were part of.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're going to move the monument, so I had hoped that we could have repurposed it, but it didn't happen. So it hasn't been too much fun.
Okay, well, it's noon, so I will go ahead and get started. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. I'm actually really excited about this presentation. I hope you find it beneficial as well. Let me just start by getting into a few AIA upcoming events. Take care of chapter business first. Okay, so our next, after today, we have a presentation on Wednesday, August 26th. We're going to try Wednesday, see if that might work better for some people. Mainly, I have something to do on Tuesday, so I planned it for Wednesday, the 26th. It's going to be a discussion of the wheelchair Halloween costumes that some local architects, interior designers, and engineers have been putting together for the past 5 years for to try to make these children's Halloweens a little bit special for the year. So we use various building supply materials to create costumes for children in wheelchairs. And as I've heard, it's the one time that people look at them and they see the child first instead of seeing the wheelchair. So we're always looking for volunteers to help out on that. And we'll be doing a presentation to show just exactly how you can get involved. There's also a tiny house.
Oh, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no.
Costumes was misspelled on that slide up at the top right. So if you want to change it in the future, sorry.
Yeah, I was putting that together while I was in another Zoom meeting with
I know.
So don't tell them. There's also a tiny house competition coming up through Sarasota. There's more information on that on our e-blast. And Architecture Week, keep this on your calendars. We'll be doing virtual events that will be October 12th through the 16th. We have a golf tournament November 9th, and we'll be incorporating our annual trade show into the golf tournament. So put that on your calendar. So the one time you can meet us in person for the year, because it will be an outdoor event. Without further ado, let's get into today's presentation, which is a virtual design charrettes. And let me introduce the speaker, and Philip will introduce the other speakers as well. But I've had the pleasure of working with Philip for the past 3 years, and I don't take it lightly when I say pleasure. It's not just a figure of speech. It is his mission in life to bring joy back into architecture. So we all go through, 5, 6, 7 years of school, and we go into this profession because we love to design and draw and paint and sketch. And it's all too easy somewhere along the way in the profession. We kind of lose that passion and we stop sketching and stop painting. And it's Philip's mission in life to bring that back. And he never lost that passion. And his passion is contagious, and his enthusiasm will just make you feel great to be a designer and architect again. And, you know, he doesn't apologize for being the prototypical designer architect, you know, and nobody should, you know, it's our passion, and that's what we bring to clients. And this whole presentation is going to be about ways to incorporate that creativity into client presentations, even in this new era of post-pandemic. And one of his favorite sayings is that if you're meeting with a client and you're listening to their input and you're in real time sketching what they're telling you and you're bringing it to life in front of their eyes, you have a client for life. And so with that, I will turn things over to Philip.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You know, I'm, as Brandon mentioned, I'm the National Design Director for RS&H. I've been with the firm for 3 years now. And that creative process is best when shared. We always look for ways to share this process. And myself, we have 66 offices and 1,200 employees across 5 lines of practice. And, you know, sharing that process has become a lot easier now, and in some ways it's changed. So I have a vested interest in making this, you know, in making this work. And in today's session, it's, you know, we're really just looking at how we're exploring this medium and empowering people to take those risks. And you find that, you know, the biggest risk is not taking risk. So what we try to do is reduce any anxiety related to this, empower you to explore. And, you know, although there are tragic consequences of the pandemic, which I won't go into in greater detail right now, there are a few gifts along the way. And, you know, this happens to be one of those. So we don't want to squander this opportunity. We really want to make the most out of this we possibly can. So, you know, I've always been an advocate of sharing that creative process. It's the hallmark of the most confident is, you know, give it a shot. Here, take this, play with it. You know, this medium does also allow people to express themselves in the mediums that they're most comfortable with. If you sketch, draw, Rhino, SketchUp, Revit, spreadsheets, you know, whatever you are in that orchestra of architecture, you know, I'm not going to force you to play the kettle drums if you're a violinist. You know, I'm not going to ask you to do Revit if you like to hand sketch. And this comes, it empowers people to use the tools they're most comfortable with. So that's one aspect I really loved about this. The other, with me today, I have some colleagues that are new to the firm, and they've been helping with a couple of the design charrettes that we've done. Carlos has just joined us 3 months ago, and there's something I'd like to share with everybody. Neither of these employees have ever been into an RS&H office. They joined the firm right when the pandemic hit and we were all work from home. I have no idea where Carlos and Eduardo actually are. They could be anywhere on the planet. As long as they have a fat pipe to the internet, I really don't care. And I think, you know, they're free range and they're happier. With that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Carlos.
Hey everyone, my name is Carlos Rios. I work with Philip and Eduardo. I'm an A1, I just joined the firm. And it's been a real pleasure working with both of them. They're always, you know, coming to me with new ideas. We go to each other with, you know, different things that we want to try out, and give us a few weeks and we make it happen. So same thing with Virtual Design Charrettes. We're going to show that to you today.
So you see the splash page behind Eduardo. He did that in Deep Dream. It's a generator, and you know, jot that one down. You'll see some more images on that one. You know, really gifted individuals in our profession. And with me also is Eduardo. He's a summer intern, and again, like Carlos, I have no idea where this man is. He could be anywhere. And and now that he has the screensaver behind him, you know, there's no disclosure. You don't get to see the living room or anything. The kit constantly changes. So Eduardo's an incredibly gifted young man, loves to explore, loves to try new things, and we're really pleased that he came and joined us for 3 months. Eduardo?
Hi, my name is Eduardo. I've only been here for 3 months, but I feel like I've absorbed a lot, so it's been a good experience. And just excited to show what we have here with these charrettes. Found it to be a very valuable tool. So
you'll notice that in these design charrettes, you know, they're richer when they have. Go ahead and share the screen, Eduardo. I think you're gonna.
Yep.
You want to have diversity in these charrettes, diversity of culture, diversity of generation, diversity of discipline, and zoom up into the upper corner. And you know, we generate those truly innovative ideas when we bring different people around. This is a traditional design charrette, and as you can see, a lot of work goes into this. You can see the pieces and parts that you reach down and grab. By the way, this is all being displayed on Mural. We'll talk a little bit more about the collaboration environment of Mural in a moment. But you can see a traditional environment. And we also had boards and parts and pieces and models, and there's rolls of trace. You can see we'd unroll and sketch. We would then photograph it, and this young man in the background here, Dylan, would take a picture with his iPhone, and he'd bring it into a digital model where he would project it up. And then we had the VR goggles. So we were kind of pulling a little bit into the digital world, even in our traditional charrettes. Why don't you pan back out? And you know, the shredding process is something that I am that I've always been a real advocate for. And when we engage our clients in this process, clients move on. They take you with you if they really feel like you're listening to them, and they know that you're listening to them. You know, when you give them the pieces and parts and let them slide it around. Eduardo, why don't you or Carlos? I'm not sure which one wants to go first here.
I'll explain some of this that we have on the screen right now. So the challenge with virtual design charrettes was to sort of reconcile old wisdom that we got from the traditional design charrettes with combining that with new technology. So in this case, it was combining Mural with a bunch of other software. But like with any charrette, you need to make clarity a very clear objective. So here we want to state goals and objectives and expectations as soon as we start off. So we want to know what we can get out of this meeting or out of this discussion, and it needs just to be clear with everyone involved.
Did you want to jump into the Panel 360 or do the survey?
I'm going to hand the survey out first, and then we'll jump into panel while we take it.
Yeah,
one of the things in go ahead, Carlos.
Yes, so if everyone can pull up their smartphones and just take a picture of this, you know, put your camera on this, and this survey is actually just going to determine how comfortable you are with working in a virtual design charrette, and see what your experiences are. So let's take a few minutes to do that.
And while you're doing that survey, and this is one of the beautiful things about doing digital design charrettes is you can extract information in different ways. Carlos, did you want to go through the Panel 360?
Yeah,
yes.
I'll relinquish the screen.
All right.
Let me quickly add, everyone is muted who's, you know, participating. If you have questions, put them in the chat box, and I'll be paying attention to the chat box and bring them up as needed.
Yeah. Are you guys able to see my Mural board?
Yes.
Okay. So this here is actually just a cool tool that we've been learning about. It uses Panel 360 technology. So if I open it up, you'll see it's actually a virtual environment. It's three-dimensional and it's interactive. So this works well for client meetings or community presentations. So if we click on these guys, we actually learn more information about what these links are. So this is about a person. It's his biography. Bio. We have PDFs, which we can access in surveys. Right. And then we just have a lot of information on here. So it's something really, it's pretty new to the firm. And we look forward to using it some more.
So if you're doing a presentation to the community where you wanted to have everyone in the community know what the project is and who the people are that are putting it together, Pano 360 is an incredible tool. It also has a survey in there and survey capabilities. When you come into this environment, it asks you for your email address, and to gain access, you have to provide a little bit of information just to gain. For community meetings, you want to know who attended, and that survey information then tracks back to the participants too. And there's videos or models and a lot of great information. Go, carry on, Carlos.
All right, I'm gonna hop into the survey actually. I think we've had enough time. So we have 10 responses here. Let's check these out real quick. Nice, we have good participation. So the first question was if you've ever participated in a traditional design charrette, right, in person. And most people have, 90%, which is expected. Wow, this result's actually pretty surprising. We've had a good amount of people that have participated in a virtual design charrette. Let's see. This one asks how comfortable you would be hosting a virtual design charrette at this moment before the meeting. And it's pretty impressive. 70% say that they can probably do it. And then we see 80% of people see themselves using this in the future. So
it's always surprising when you get these results, you know. And what we'll do in a design charrette, people will be, we have to pull this off, you have someone like Eduardo grooming the mural board, you have someone like Carlos managing computer models and databases. You also have people who are aggregating questions for the survey. If they see some contentious subject, they'll be writing these questions out so you can be doing these surveys as you move through the charrette.
Yep.
Why don't we jump back to the mural board? I want to make sure we don't fall behind.
Okay. So do we hand it off here, the mural board?
Yeah, there are, Eduardo would also be, or Carlos would also be aggregating data into Power BI. That's a business analytics tool that we use. And if you zoom in on the lower right-hand corner, you can see the Power BI analytics, and it just displays information in different ways, which is very insightful. You know, we all have data. I mean, what is the data telling us? Power BI is an effective tool for that. Why don't you jump up to the next panel?
Yeah.
Establishing the necessary needs of the projects. And so somebody's going to have to relinquish. What I'm going to do is share with you a, let me just share my screen. This is, do we see the, does everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. Some people work in SketchUp. I happen to use SketchUp a bit. I really like it. And you can use this tool when you're explaining, you know, this is a site utilization study and massing and how it fits on the site. It's really effective to come into Google Earth and explain the basic parameters of the site. Oftentimes, as we're doing these, you know, someone is sketching what people are talking about, whether they want to have green elements at the entry, whether there's a ring road, whether there's some interesting interior feature on the site. And then what they'll do is they'll bring that sketch into that analysis and then start putting some basic massing on. And this is really done real time. And then we might bring up the master plan that other consultants may have done. And we bring that together in this environment. And, you know, there's still a lot of people that just sketch and draw so beautifully. And they do it so quickly. And what we do is they just take a picture with their iPhone and we upload it and we pull it back in under the massing model. And you have a basic understanding of this. It's different when you're actually inside of it. So as everybody's talking about it and we're co-creating these solutions, you will probably come up with 2 or 3 different options. And then what we'll do is we'll do some screen captures, and I'm going to stop sharing. And why don't you, Eduardo, pull it back into, you can share. So what we do then is we pull it back into, we come back into the mural board. And this is where everybody would be sketching, putting Post-it notes on there, and we would be aggregating, you know, we'd be extracting from everybody their opinions, their thoughts on the exercises that we just did. And, you can see, I think Carlos is adding some Post-it notes right now. You can see it's real time. And then what would happen is someone in the background would be rebuilding these models around what they're hearing from the group. So it's really a real time project development, which is really exciting. You need to have multiple people. You've got a facilitator like myself managing the group, making sure you're moving through. You've got someone like Eduardo grooming the board, making sure content is falling on there and survey results. And then someone like Carlos who's pulling the data from surveys, who's rebuilding the models and pulling all the sketches together and building up SketchUp or Revit or Rhino. Eduardo, why don't you talk about the next aspect?
Yep. To me, part of the beauty of Mural is the ability to jump and forth between levels of complexity, especially in terms of software. So here, this is just staying completely within Mural. Like you could just copy these shapes that are just pulled from an image of an actual plan. And if you wanted to have a discussion, it could be as simple as just dragging these around and like reconfiguring things in real time with just very simple, with a very simple interface. But the good thing with a virtual charrette is that you can go from this end, which I feel is very simple. You know, this is universal, like there's no one that couldn't be able to use this tool. But then you can also bring it all the way over into something more complex like Infraworks and Rhino. So we use Infraworks more on large scale projects. I just have a screenshot of it here, but, oh, wrong one. But you can look at things at a very large scale. And then also be able to bring it into Rhino. And right now mine is sort of lagging because it's kind of a large file. But yeah. So returning back to the Mural board, you're able to jump in scale and complexity based on the needs of your projects, hence the name of this section, which is the establishing the necessary needs.
We also use, so you can see the Venn diagrams that Eduardo shared. You know, those are really helpful to slide all the pieces and parts around, and other people can move these pieces and parts around also and reposition this basic anatomy. It's really helpful in that programming phase. And we do charrettes. I try to keep them around no more than 4 hours because people start, you just get exhausted. Why don't you scoot up to the Synoptic panel? This is called a Synoptic panel. And what it does is it ties back into a Revit model and it extracts departmental data. So what you can do is you could click on, we'll demonstrate how this works in a moment, but the data comes off of the Revit model, it's flattened through Excel and pulled into Power BI, which is an analytics dashboard. And oftentimes with a client, they want to know what's the square footage of the department, what's the total gross square footage, what's the square footage on the first floor or imaging or MRI. And this allows them to fully understand, you know, where is the program in this building going? And I think we've got a Power BI that we can demonstrate for you. Is that you, Carlos?
Yeah, I'll pull it up now. So this here is Power BI. Can you guys see it? Yes?
Yep.
Yeah, that looks good.
So these are the Synoptic panels. Like Philip said, these are highlighted based on the department data from Revit as an Excel sheet. So they're interactive. That's really what's powerful about Power BI. Click these guys, you can jump back and forth. We also have a spreadsheet, which is interactive, which highlights square footage and gives you a proportion type of graph, which is this here on the left.
So Carlos, Carlos will now demonstrate. Carlos, let's pretend I'm a client and I want to know, you know, what's the building floor area on level 1? This is completely unscripted and I'm throwing Carlos. Okay, that just told you there's 101,000 square feet. What's level 2? What's level 90,000? What's level 2 and level 5? It just, there you go.
Loop 2 and 5.
There's 5. Now go up and click, do control and click on 2 also.
Okay.
Okay, so you can see, you know, all of the departments below completely update, and all those departments are the departments on level 2 and 5, and it gives you that total area. Now you could also click on lab down in departments. That tells you total lab space. Unclick 5 and 2, and that gives you the total lab space in the entire building. Thank you, Carlos. You did really good.
All right, thanks.
So, you know, these are the Synoptic panel gives you a little floor plan. The departmental data. Now, Power BI is really easy to use. I encourage everybody to explore. But, you know, when you're in a room and everyone's firing questions at you, you got to be able to get to the data. That's the tool to use. Why don't we jump back to the Mural board?
All right. Here we are.
Yes, Carlos, since you're up, why don't you keep rolling with that dynamic modeling?
All right, so dynamic modeling, we've been doing with a tool called Grasshopper, which is actually hosted in Revit. I mean, in Rhino. Rhino is a 3D modeling tool for geometry. And the way it works, it sounds complicated, but it's actually pretty easy if you start off simple, you know. You can model using visual scripting. So in a way, it's just like mathematical equations. Let's say you wanted to create a line. You would just create 2 points and link them together and get the line between 2 points. Once you got that down, you can start to play around with these components up here.
Why don't you zoom in on one of your mosaics, and you can see each one of those are the sliders that you would manipulate, and then just above, those are all wired together. And again, those are just simple math equations. They're written in Python, and but they're just little modules that you can drop on. It looks a little intimidating, but once you play with it, it's an incredibly powerful tool for reiterative design. So you can explore numerous options on the fly.
And here's the result. So I'm going to show this to you. It's an animation of the Grasshopper script in action. It's pretty nice to see. So we can see the fleet of planes changing as you move a slider around on Grasshopper. And you can see the square footage of the building moving and the planes adapting to that. So everything is linked together as a result of the equations and the wires. It's a really powerful tool. It lets you work on the fly and go back and forth.
So this particular definition has 13,500,000 different combinations. But as being able to just slide these back and forth, you can explore these combinations. There's another plugin that's called Galapagos. And what you could do then is establish the most highly desirable aspects. Let's say you wanted the maximum number of gates and the minimum number of apron square footage because it's expensive. Galapagos would prioritize those two values and then come back with the options that achieve that. So this reiterative type of design, it's really powerful. And, you know, the graduates from college, they're fully loaded. They're pre-programmed to do this. You just merely need to listen to the young talent that's coming into the firm. They'll amaze you. Okay, let's jump back to, and this is not generational. You know, anybody at any age can master this. It's not, you know, this is not a generational piece of software. No software is. All right, let's jump over to how are we doing time-wise? We're doing good.
Good. I'm going to hand it back to you, Philip, on the Mural board.
All right, why don't you zoom in on,
I'll take it.
yeah, grab it, Eduardo. Yeah, at the top here, oftentimes, different information solicit different responses. In this, we would be working with a client and looking at different photographs of their building and asking them, you know, what is it you like? What don't you like? And all of the people would be circling the things they like, putting the little stars on what they do like and what they don't like. Yeah, drop a couple of emblems on there. And so everybody would be adding these things in real time. And as we're talking, you'll see they're all, it looks like butterflies, everybody floating around, and they're adding all of their notes, they're adding their comments, they're adding their Post-it notes, they're sketching on it. And you can see that it begins to get this patina, this intellectual patina. And when you have a lot of people in these charrettes, it's amazing how much information begins to be collected here. But this is one level of information. Another level of information, and if you pan down, I'll turn it over to you, Eduardo.
Yeah, so the levels of information Philip was referring to was, earlier we were looking at a more qualitative method of gathering information, and this is more quantitative. We had to, in a way, reduce down the aspects that we were looking at. So instead of looking at whole pictures, we would transform them into words, and each person has a different sort of association with each of these adjectives. And we just wanted to establish maybe there's aspects to a site or to an existing building that we want to avoid or that we want to continue with in the future. So that's what these are. These are on the left side. These are screenshots from the Google Forms that we actually used in the actual workshop. And on the right is when we sort of consolidated the data into, it's pretty similar, but it's a more easily digestible version of it in Power BI and more interactive.
So you can see that I'm in this environment, but I'm in the Mural environment from another computer. And you know, this Post-it note is driving me nuts. I just want to know what does it say underneath it? So you know, at least I can come into this environment and add my notes, and you can see there's others also. So, you know, in the survey, what was the least desirable, and this was an example of the survey, least desirable existing elements. You know, it's industrial. What is the most desirable? Well, of the existing, it was bright, modern, and minimal. I mean, that's, boy, you hear the angels sing as an architect when someone comes back with that kind of information. You know, so hallelujah. So let's pan up to the next section, section number 6, and benchmarking. You know, nothing energizes a client more than a valid benchmarking discussion. And this is where you look at your client and how does he compare with similar client types, either in a region or geography. And so what we would do is guide them through this benchmarking exercise. As your design professional, they really rely upon you to do that for them. And if you pan down just a little bit, this is an example of one that we were doing for an aviation client. You know, these are just some emerging trends that we see in the aviation industry. Thank you. You know, lounge, integrated concessions, biophilia, terraces, a sense of regionalism. And what we would do is we would benchmark against other, in this case, you know, it was, you know, if it was Jacksonville Airport or Melbourne Airport, what's Palm Beach doing? If it was a Melbourne Airport project, what's Palm Beach doing? What's Jacksonville doing? And we would look at which ones are doing what aspects. And then it really empowers the client. You know, we have to step up to the plate. You know, this is a call to action. This is our moment. And, you know, that empowering, you know, I can tell you, you know, when you have a client on board, some truly creative and innovative things begin to happen. And I don't know if we want to, do we want to pull over to the next one?
Sure. Yeah.
This is kind of related to that benchmarking. And you begin to, instead of looking at what the competition is doing, you know, we look more at them. This is a introspective exercise, and I'll let let Carlos go with this.
I'll take it over.
Do you want the screen?
You can keep controlling it, Eduardo.
Okay.
It's good there. Yeah. Just zoom into the table for me. All right. Thank you. Something important that we as designers and architects have to do, and remember to do, is to leave the bird's eye view behind and think about the experience of the passenger or the occupant of a building. And we've created an exercise here with this table in which we do that. We try to tailor an experience in a design. So we have 3 columns here: customer experience, civic pride, and regional identity. And through this, we're able to pull the identity of the area in which the project is being created, right? So in regional identity, we look at regional characteristics and unique qualities that make the location recognizable, and it gives it a sense of place. So for here for Melbourne, we have Melbourne as a gateway to space with Cape Canaveral really nearby, a tropical environment, and a beach casual type of experience. And these are things which the occupants of the area can relate to. So we have that dialogue here on this table. And then we have civic pride. This column is a space in which we capture the essence of the community and the city, and we give them a space to celebrate and express their ideas and culture. So this is something that we look forward to bringing into the design as well. And then we also look at the customer experience of someone who's never been to the area and try to see where we can fit these things in to their journey as they pass by. So I'm going to hand it back to Philip.
That was really well done. Thank you, Carlos.
Mhm.
Everybody expresses themselves differently, and that's why it's important to have different people verbalizing, sketching, and we use the tools. Go ahead, you can pan over to the next one. We use the tools that we're most comfortable with, right? I mean, if you use SketchUp, if you draw, in these charrettes, there's Excel and Revit and Rhino and Infraworks and Power BI. There's a lot going on in these environments, and that's what makes it rich. You know, through that exercise, though, we identify those regional aspects or those emerging trends that are defined as most highly desirable as a team, either through the sketching or the surveys. And when we distill them down to those most highly desirable aspects, we begin to place those, you know, where would be the most appropriate spot for that experience or that aspect. And, you know, this is when the plan or the planning really begins to come alive. The client knows why you're doing these things at these points, and he's fully on board because these are things he wants to do and he understands. And, you know, it not only does it create a really appropriate solution, it withstands the value engineering exercise, you know, because although some of these things are placed purely here for joy and delight, those sometimes are the first things that are that are lost. But, you know, when you have him on board, when you have the client on board, you know, they support your design decisions. As you can see, this little diagram is really helpful. And you can zoom back out again. And I think that this one, you know, that experiential component is Eduardo, why don't you can chat a little bit about the experiential aspects.
Sure. What was important for this project, this was an example that we pulled from airport in Reno, but what was important was to sort of capitalize on the regional aspects of this place. One of them was experiential diversity, for example, where there was a sort of array of things that you could do in this place, and how do you reflect just a concept and then manifest that into an actual experience. That's pretty much what this was.
Yeah, so you had the experience, and it's an image they would recognize. Then how does that get expressed in the project? So these are really valid exercises. The clients and engineers and consultants, that diversity in the group, they really understand that scholarly study that we do to arrive at these solutions. They are not frivolous manipulation of shape and form and color. Why don't we zoom back out, and we want to make sure that this is, sometimes words are better though. It's like when reading a book or viewing a movie. When I read a book, my mind paints out that picture and in beautiful ways. So sometimes we just use keywords. And go ahead, Eduardo.
Yeah, so like Philip said, we want to use these words as sort of drivers in how we approach different aspects of the design, or like how do we choose which of these adjectives are the most appropriate for that project. So inevitably you can't pick every single one, which is why we had to sort of narrow them down, or at least figure which things are more important than others. These two are actually separate from each other, so these aren't the same words, but it allowed us to, you know, collect data about what we felt was the most appropriate or most important to carry on with.
And if you zoom back in on the words at the top, what was happening here is we were developing, there was 3 concepts that became apparent. They coalesced into discernibly different possibilities. The technology one, there was one that looked at regional industry and technology. The other one looked at cultural aspects. The other one was dealing with the climate and that beautiful, lush Florida tropical climate. So each of these kind of coalesced as a driver, as an organizing kind of concept. And then the form behind us began to fall into cadence with these 3 keywords. So why don't we zoom back out and...
Yeah, here is another more qualitative approach to it, where it's not necessarily we choose which ones have the most votes. It could be that as a team, if I were to invite everyone to this board, the team collectively would maybe like rearrange these words, and you would kind of accompany a discussion along with the actual ranking of them. So it wasn't just a stagnant number associated with a word. It was a whole concept, if that makes sense. I'll move that out the way.
To
Yeah,
let people
here,
try that. So let's transition into actually going live on a board. So in the chat, Eduardo or Carlos is gonna send a link, and if everybody can open up the chat and go to that link, that will allow you to sign in as a guest, and we can all be live on a, you know, a trial kind of mural board.
So
And there we go.
Yep.
There we go. This is the board that you should all be brought to.
This will be helpful if you have dual monitors right now. You can, you know, go out from watching the Zoom meeting and go to your website, your browser, and actually start playing now. If someone wants to describe where to find the different tools and whatnot.
Yeah, sure. I'll just go along this left corner right here. These are probably the most appropriate to use right now. So the top one is just text. You have different types of text you could use. One is the, I would choose either title or text box are the most appropriate or the easiest to use. You can also use sticky notes. Instead of dragging these in though, you could actually just double click in the actual board and that should bring up a sticky note. I'll just delete that real fast. You can also bring shapes and connectors, and I mean, these are pretty intuitive to use. What is interesting about these is that if you were to bring these over, you can drag and then sort of snap the shapes to different things. Lastly are these several symbols that you can assign meaning to these at the beginning of a charrette, for example. And yeah, it's just a good tool for if you want to create a legend. Frameworks are a little larger. They're meant just to create, like if you wanted to do here, just create sort of a template for you to use in the future. These are just pre-made things that you could use. Lastly, you can import images, or you could just drag images directly from your computer screen onto the mural board. You can also import whole files, so like a PDF, or honestly anything that fits a certain file size. If it gets too large, it's most likely to stop working. Lastly, you can draw, and we find these pretty useful. So if you want to play tic-tac-toe, you just do an X.
Yeah, I'll play you. Yeah, there we go.
So the other nice thing is that you can like just drag images right onto. It's a drag and drop, so it'll just drag an image right onto the board.
Yeah. So as an example, I'll drag these on real fast. These are actually our best practices that we found while doing these charrettes, so I'll just make these a little larger. These are a pretty good reference for in the future. We'll lock these down. Yeah, if you want me to return to the original mural board, or should we stay on this for a little longer?
Well, why don't we, yeah, let's talk about the needs and opportunities. It'd probably be best to go into the phase and description, just zoom in on that one. You know, before the charrette, it's really important that, you know, you explain, you need to know who's coming to the charrette. You want to make sure that you have diversity in it. You need to also explain to them, you know, what is the goals? What's going to be expected of you? It's also really nice if you can gather some data, any data at all. I guarantee you it'll surprise you and you'll do a course correction. During the charrette, you really want to restate those goals. You want to establish the needs. You want to, you know, discuss and the contested needs. I can tell you in real time, resolving something is, you know, far better than dealing with 500 emails that have escalating emotions in it. Just deal with it real time. And, you know, it's the best way to build consensus is to face those challenges and then to do it as a group. Then after that charrette, clear communications. You really want to pull that book together. Don't redo anything. Just take the mural board, crop, edit, and present that back to them. They'll recognize it, they'll understand it, and they'll support it. But you got to do it right away. Don't wait weeks. You got to do it in the next couple of days. A charrette is, if you're going to make money in this business, it's schematic design and design development. And I tell you, charrettes move you through those process, through those early stages with confidence and quickly, and you're making money. Don't squander this. Don't overthink it. Get the book put back together and get it back out. And a digital book, we oftentimes in the Zoom meeting will do a recording where everybody talks about what they just did. And that in the digital book, it has a hyperlink, and we'll upload that to Vimeo. It has a hyperlink, and you hear everyone talk about what they like, what they don't like, what we need to do. And, you know, a digital charrette has a digital book. I mean, let's not go down to Staples and print out a book and mail it out. I mean, kind of defeats the whole purpose. Why don't you pan over and we'll talk a little bit about that last section there. You know, for the participants, you got to know your project, know your subject matter. If you're if you are a subject matter expert, you better be prepared to talk about your subject matter as it relates to this project. You got to be attentive and be engaged. You need to have familiarity with your software. If you're working in Excel, fine. You know, bring it up. If you're designing it in Excel, whatever is programming, or if you're in Microsoft projects, it doesn't matter. Use the tools you use to create that content, because you can change it on the fly. You can change Excel. You're familiar with the content. You're familiar with the Excel sheets and all the cells in there. Just change it on the fly. You got to be respectful, though. If someone says something really bizarre or really out there, don't put them down. You know, listen to them, hear them out. Understand your goals, stay on task. That's really important, because if people see that you're digressing and you're tapping out, you know, you got to be able to, we call it a parking lot. You know, if someone gets wrapped around the axle, you really got to, you know, I hear you, it's important. I'm going to put it in the parking lot, because we could talk all day and not be any closer to resolution. And that allows you to stay on schedule. When people sense that you're staying on schedule, they'll stay engaged. What's really tough, you know, be open to suggestions. We all have a preconceived idea of what it is that we want to see in this project. But if you listen to somebody, which is the highest honor you could really bestow on someone, to really listen and not just prepare your rebuttal to why you are right, but really listen, you know, it'll be a success. For the facilitator, and again, you got 3 people in this thing managing this. You have the facilitator, someone like myself that's just shepherding this whole thing through, and you own it. You got to own as a facilitator. Then you've got someone like Eduardo grooming the board, capturing the content, doing the screen captures, getting it, populating it. And then you have someone like Eduardo, who's changing the Grasshopper scripts and changing the SketchUp models and rebuilding everything. And I think this is Brandon, somebody's got, think of whoever that is, the visiting duck. If you can pull that down a little bit, thank you. You know, operate as a team. Getting us to vibe together as a group is the real power of this. And it can be done. It is done. Parking lot we talked about. Use the most accessible applications. These things are, it's a clearinghouse of tools. And again, Revit, hand sketching, SketchUp, Rhino, Grasshopper, Excel, they're all viable tools. And the last one is the toughest one. It's like, be flexible, man. If someone says something, take it for a test run. Explore it, sketch it, manipulate the data, see what happens. Just do it right there. Have the courage to just do it right there and see what it is. So, you know, I see it's at 12:48, so I am going to surrender the mic to, I think it's Brandon. Are we going to go to the, are we going to close out back on the virtual design charrette board? Yeah, here, you know, the last things, obviously, you know, that summary and evaluation, go through what worked well. You know, people are adding Post-it notes. This just isn't Eduardo typing this up. Everybody's putting Post-it notes on there. And if they're not, you got to call them out. You know, you got to go through that list and ask them to put something on there. You know, what needs to change? What are the unanswered questions that we discovered? And what are the new ideas that we need to try? And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to, just before we turn it over to Brandon, Carlos, Eduardo, thank you so much. Is there any closing comments? I'll start with Carlos.
Really, it's just about, you know, despite being in a virtual world, just it's important to be resilient and find ways around everything, because these constraints present a lot of opportunities for something new. So don't be afraid. Just, you know, keep pushing that frontier and see where it takes you.
Eduardo?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. There's a, like, we might think of our current situation as a problem, but I think we've figured out a way to make it actually kind of an opportunity and forward ourselves. Also, around like this, when we're all collaborating, allows us to sort of synergize, where maybe one person's weaknesses may be made up for by someone's strength. You know, maybe not everyone knows Revit or everyone knows Rhino, but, you know, if just one of you does, then it's like, you know, it's just better for it. So
Yeah, you're right. I mean, we all got game. That's why we were here at the AIA, you know, and you just got to bring that with confidence to these collaborative environments. So why don't you unshare it? We'll turn it over to Brandon. And
Well, Philip, can you
thank you.
talk a little bit more about the actual software, the Mural app?
Mural has it's this clearinghouse. The nice thing about it is people can come back to it later. It is a cloud-based collaborative tool that's emerging as an effective one. It's about $45 a person. So if you get 4 or 5 people, you know, it's reasonably priced. And not everybody has to buy a license. Everybody who came in today came in as visitors. So it's affordable. There's other ones. There's Miro. Is that it, Eduardo? Miro?
Miro.
Yeah, Miro. So Miro. I hope the third one doesn't start with M, or I'll completely forget it. You know, these are great tools. Everybody, we're starting to use it in-house now for our design workflows. Again, we got 66 offices, 1,200 employees. Brandon is working on a project now where we're starting to create a board just for the project that he's on. And every day he comes in and there's more stuff in there. So it's really a wonderful tool. I recommend that you explore it.
Yep. It's an effective tool. It's not just something that we're proposing. It's been done, it's been tested, and we've done the research with professors from UF. You know, so give it a shot. You give it a chance, and it'll take you somewhere good.
I would also say that we've shown a lot of tools today and a lot of opportunities with what we've done, but there is the possibility that there is software out there that we just don't know about yet that could be, you know, the next advancement. So, I mean, these are good opportunities, but that doesn't mean there aren't any more.
Is that all you got, Brandon? You got any more tough questions on the chat line? Oh, he froze. You know, it's been one of those things that we do in these Zoom meetings. Now everyone works on their froze. You know, he's like, did you freeze? Like, no, I'm just miming. You know, you got to enjoy the new paradigms. It looks like Brandon's back up. I could stop stretching this out.
Trying to say that I'm personally getting like inundated with Zoom conference calls. So I can see how this Mural kind of cloud-based clearinghouse of collaboration could be useful. And, you know, rather than email back and forth 20 times, you can just post and communicate with with your own team members on this, cloud-based platform, and, just come to it when you have availability, see the comments, and, potentially save your inbox and your time.
Well, another thing that we're doing is in our Zoom meetings, have a Zoom meeting, here's a new concept, and invite nobody. It's just you. My favorite kind of Zoom meetings. Then what you can do is you bring up stuff on the virtual background here, a floor plan, and you can point to it and talk to it, and you record it. And it's just, it's just 2 minutes long. It's like, we got to move this over to here. We got to do that down to there. We got to bring this over here, and this doesn't work at all. And what were you thinking? And then you just upload that to Vimeo. You paste the little link in the Mural Board, and it says my thoughts. And who can resist clicking on a hyperlink? Come on. And that way, it cuts people, we connect. So use all these tools, have fun.
Well, I'm gonna unmute everybody if they haven't. How do I unmute everybody at once?
There, I'm unmuted, I think.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. All right.
You have to unmute yourself is the fastest way. Someone's muted again.
How much prep time do you normally put into a charrette like this? Because it seemed like there were a lot of slides and images and data that you had prior going in. How much time did you guys prep for, say, the little charrette we just went through?
That one had 2 sessions before the charrette. We charretted the charrette. What are we going to talk about? And then the second one, we just asked everybody. It's surprisingly fast because you're not really creating new content. You're just grabbing all the stuff that you use on a day-to-day basis and populating the board. So it's surprisingly fast because you're not really creating a presentation. You're kind of using the tools you're using on a day-to-day basis and just grabbing a couple of key images or subject matters, and then being prepared to manipulate that spreadsheet in the shredding environment. So I would say we had about 2 hours to shred, and then we had about another hour meeting to just rehearse and roles and responsibilities. Then each person probably spent another 2 hours kind of just going over their content and making sure they were good.
Yeah, very, very impressive. Almost more focused than a live charrette, I would say.
You know what? I've been doing charrettes. I'm 62. I've been doing charrettes for 30 some odd years, and I was uncomfortable doing the first virtual one. But after the first one, not only did I, I'm going to keep doing this. This is really valuable. But it also rolled back into our studios, like working with Brandon on mural boards for projects. They're just, we're visual people. And the opportunity for little hyperlinks in there, these things get a intellectual patina that's just incredible. You really begin to see the scholarly work that we do in a storyboard. So I'm a believer.
Yeah, I am too.
Thank you. We got a convert.
Hey, Eve Rathler here. I have a general question for all of you colleagues out there. How do you spell charrette? I've been like Robbie. I've been doing charrettes pretty much my whole career for about 100.
2 R's, 2 T's.
And I have an ongoing discussion with linguists all over the country, and some say 1 R, some say 2 R's. I'm French in heritage, so I know it's 1 R. but
Yeah.
the dictionary spells it two-way. What do you, I'm just curious, Robbie, you know.
You know what I'd
Doesn't
go with?
bloody matter.
It's a French word, so I'm going to go with your advice. See up there, we got 2 R's and 2 T's. I think, you know,
It's a bit of a,
you are now the subject matter expert because, you know,
no, but I've got
you're
writers
French.
that are, you know, looking it up online, and it's both ways.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know where the 2 R's came from.
Yeah, it came from people. Look, if you want to spell something, I'm not the person to come to, right? I got a lot of gifts. That's not one of them. So there's a lot of people out there like me misspelling it so many times that it's on the internet, it became true.
Look, I've accepted both ways, but thank you very much for all your sharing your personal process. It's very generous of you to do so.
I really appreciate you coming. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll say this about the word charrette. Whether you type it with 2 R's or 1 R, you still get a red squiggly line, you know, for both.
How do you then document the results of the charrette with the owner?
What's that?
How do you document the results of the charrette then with the owner?
I'll let Eduardo take that one.
Yeah, I mean, it can be kind of quite a process. There are a range of ways you can do it. Like Philip said, you can take that like maybe 5-ish minute video at the end of each section and send that out afterwards. What we did was actually, me and Carlos kind of teamed up, got some screen captures of the whole board, but not of the entire thing, of like certain sections, and then sort of document those in an actual booklet. So it was like an image with a description, like, you know, a paragraph. So the book itself ended up being about like 45 pages, which can be a lot sometimes, a little overwhelming, but we can easily just send out the videos, make that.
And what I want to point out, it was a digital book. It was a PDF book. If you so choose, you could print it out. But the digital book, I mean, there's so many trees dropping, you know, and the digital book for a digital charrette is really appropriate because there was hyperlinks in it. You could go back to the survey results. You could go back to the videos. They have all the links back to Vimeo, and, you know, there'd be other assets that were all hyperlinked in there. And so it's a starting point to launch you in all sorts of directions. So we are an advocate of the digital version of that book.
So you can archive a moment in time of the mural.
Yeah, it's a snapshot in time. And then we close down the mural board so that, you know, we want it to be that snapshot in time. And we start another board, which would be like concept development or schematic design or design development. And some of those assets were brought over, you know, so, you know, if we develop that concept, I mean, that's money. I mean, we pull that into the next phase of the project and off and running.
Yep, the images in the book, you know, you want to get the board developed enough to where they speak for themselves, to the point where you don't need much text. So
yeah,
it doesn't take too long. You just hop in InDesign and create the book.
Yeah, the text itself is just a supplement. The idea of the book is to sort of consolidate all that information because, you know, 3 hours of talking is a lot. Taking it down into a book just calms it down.
You're exhausted when you get done with. Don't do these things for like 6 hours. You'll be exhausted. You know, you try to keep these things like 2 hours or 3 hours. The one that we did, I mean, there was 30 people at this thing, and it was like $45,000 worth of expenses if someone had to fly there, stay in a hotel the night before. You know, and it's a lot of money to do these things in person. We had clients that would have been coming from Europe. I mean, you know, how much is that? So, you know, we saved money. Instead of flying around, everybody logged in from their home office. And so there was, you're not flying, you're not staying in hotels, you're not missing work. And, you know, these people logged in for a couple-hour session, and then it was a 2-day charrette, but it was so popular it carried over to a 3rd day. You know, it turned into like Groundhog Day. So, you know, it was a success. Any more on the chat line?
Questions before we call it? No. Okay, well, Philip, Carlos, Eduardo, thank you for joining us. I hope all of our members in the audience found this helpful and informative. we're always looking for more ideas on future presentations. So if there's a topic you'd like to have AIA Jacksonville cover, just send me or Shonda admin at aiajacksonville.org an email and let us know what you want to hear. But once again, thanks, Philip. I know sometimes firms are a little competitive and don't want to like share and divulge their secret knowledge, but I think as a community, we're better off if we're all, you know, raising the bar of architecture design as a community. So thank you for being so open and willing to share.
All right, thanks. Take care, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.